I'm Tom from TuneProducer.com. This week it gives me great pleasure to have a sit down with my friend, Grammy Award winning producer, musician, and amazing guitarist, Larry Mitchell. Larry's been touring the world getting his music out to fans worldwide and recently has been included as a guest instructor at the Stevie Vai Academy 5.0 here in New York. You had an interesting event this past week.
It was an amazing event.
And it was...
Steve Vai Academy 5.0.
What did you do?
We went to Avengers Assembled at the mansion in Glen Cove, Long Island. And it was a nice group of featured artists. It was obviously Steve Vai, Joe Satriani is the super special guest featured artist. Then Andy Timmons, one of my favorite guitar players in the world. Pliny, who I was not super familiar with, but really dig his style, and he's an Australian guitar player that just has a unique style. And Devin Townsend, who I was very familiar with, but had not met him in person, even though we did a show together earlier this year at Winter Now. And Devin is the person that I got to bond with a little bit more than everybody this trip, and get to know a little bit better, and much respect for what he does. He also did, Devin did a song that him and Steve had done on the Sex and Religion album. At one point when Devin, I think, was 17 or 18, he was the lead singer in a Steve Vai record called Sex and Religion. And he's got an insane voice, but he's also really an insane guitar player. Really cool, insane guitar player. He's a Canadian, and he's really popular in Europe.
Yeah.
There's stadiums in Europe. But he's got a unique approach to guitar and guitar effects. And this camp was, the theme of this camp was sound sculpting. And I believe we had a little over 200 campers, as they call them. Mm-hmm. And they mostly come from, or I don't know if they mostly come, but there's a large South American contingent, Australian contingent. There's probably at least 10 people from Australia. There's probably 10 to 15 Germans there. A couple of people from Spain, and actually, because they had opened it up to not just the campers who stay on the premises, but quite a few people who could come for a day pass, or I guess, or two day pass. So there were some people from New York and New Jersey and Long Island and stuff like that as well.
And I've really been wondering, what is your musical direction these days? Has it changed? Has it evolved? Where are you?
Music always evolves. I'm still a guitar instrumentalist as for my career. I'm definitely heading more to, I've always been into funk, so I'm a more of a rock, my past records are rock instrumental, a little bit of blues, a little bit of funk. But I think the next record's definitely going to be a little bit more funkier than the past stuff. Not a funk record, but definitely funkier.
Which brings me to my next question.
Mm-hmm.
Your musical influence. As I know a good part of your musical influence was Michael Jackson and Prince.
Yeah. You
always loved them.
I grew up I grew up with my cousins playing funk records and stuff like that. My mom listened to country and soul and R&B and Johnny Mathis. The band next door was a band called Brass Construction. They used to rehearse, and that was a whole different kind of thing. And my friends were into like the disco era and R&B and stuff like that. And then I remember running through my grandmother's living room and stopping dead in my tracks because she was watching Hee Haw, and there was Roy Clark, Chet Atkins, and Jerry Reed. And when you play guitar and you don't know about those guys and you hear them all three playing, you are not prepared. You're just kind of like, what is that? Yeah. And I remember going to school in urban America, urban Queens.
Yeah.
And did you guys see Hee Haw last night? And they were like, Hee Haw? What are you watching that for? You don't understand. It was these three guitar players that were just, I didn't really care about genre. It's just like those guys were playing guitar like I'd never heard anybody play guitar before. So it didn't matter. And I still listen to Prince. I still listen to King's X. I still listen to Van Halen every now and then. I still listen to Eric Johnson. I'm a big Eric Johnson fan. Yeah. I still listen to Ed Sheeran. I'm a big Ed Sheeran fan.
Me too.
Cool. Boy can write. I'm a John Mayer fan. I listen to just. I'm not super big on today's R&B, and definitely not in
There is today's R&B?
Yeah, there's no guitar in it. I'm not big on. I haven't been big on rap at all, and I'm not sure where it's going. And I'm not big on death metal, but I like a lot of stuff, a lot of music.
So
Mozart fan.
Mozart?
Mozart.
So we have a lot of things in common with our musical tastes still, and that's a great thing. You have a pretty odd touring schedule.
Me?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Odd?
How many days a year are you home?
I have no idea.
Okay.
It's never the same. There's nothing about it's the same from year to year. Before I released my 2 records ago, The Traveler, I named it The Traveler because I was traveling an intense amount the year before. After The Traveler came out, I doubled that. I don't know what this is, but this year's way more than the last year and the year before. So.
Well, whenever somebody says that to me, I say, raise your prices and it'll drop down quickly.
Oh, wait, am I supposed to be charging for this
Oh,
stuff?
no. You do this for free, right?
Yeah.
So you do have a schedule that's pretty amazing. When you get into an area, like you were just in Germany, what kind of places are you playing in? Just local venues?
So I decided to just go places where people want me. If I apply to something and they don't respond or they're like hesitant, then all right, it's not the right time. So I do everything. I do clubs, festivals, and in places where they don't know me, I do house concerts. I do small venues. And I think the Italian schedule that's coming up on Thursday, I go to Italy. I'll be there for 10 days, and I think it's 3 clubs, 1 big festival, a couple of small local town square festivals with a band. I'm rehearsing with a band. But then I had 4 days off, and you really can't have 4 days off. 4 days off in Rome, which is really cool, but you can't have days off. So I'm playing 3 different rooftop bars.
With the band or solo?
No, solo. Actually, there's a local singer who, I want to say she sang, I haven't met her yet. I want to say she sang with Aerosmith. I could be wrong. But I've seen videos of her and she's really great. Mm-hmm. So we're splitting the gig. I don't know what that means, but we're splitting the gig. But it's a rooftop bar. And I have a really good super fan in Italy who's come to see me most of the times I go to Italy. Mm-hmm. And he's like, where should I come see you play? I said, well, you could come see me play in a big festival, or you could wait a day and come see me hang out at this rooftop playing. And, you got to eat. You got to, it's a hotel room, it's food, it's pay, and it's like 4 days off except for 3 hours a night I'm going to go play.
It's a job.
It's a job. So I'm going to do both. I'm not going to sit in a hotel room in Rome that I'm paying for and sulk. I actually have some friends there I probably might end up staying with anyway. But
that's nice.
But yeah, and Rome is great. I mean, the daytime I'm going to walk around Rome, or even really cool thing about Rome is to go sightseeing at night after all the tourists have gone away, and all you can't get into any place, but you can see the outside, which is just as beautiful as the inside. So I do whatever works. I do all kinds of gigs, all kinds of venues. Depends on where people know me.
Do you ever track it?
Track it?
Yeah, like actually put together your agenda for the year at the end of the year, just so you know where you've been?
Oh yeah, I tried to do. Well, yeah, because I need to know where I can go back, where it works, where it didn't work. Okay. Yeah. And then some festivals don't want you to come back the next year, but they want you to come back. So, like the Tacoma Guitar Festival, I've done 3 years now, 3 times, and they want to put me on the every other year.
Okay.
So
it keeps the audience interested.
I'll gladly do it. It's a good festival. I like doing it.
So you use some great instruments, and you also use some great effects.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm thinking, well, you're like the effect guy from hell.
Okay.
Or from heaven.
All right.
You're all over the place and you've been like this I remember the analog days when we were lugging around, racks of stuff.
My friend Dave over there, we used to stuff his car. It was a Nissan Sentra. Stuff his car with a 16-space shock mount rack,
I
and
remember.
another rack, and a bunch of cabinets. I love effects, and that's what this whole Vai Academy was for, was sound sculpting. That was the theme, and where we talked about effects. And I currently use for the last it's 10 years now, more than 10 years. I've been using a modular multiprocessor called the Axifx. And live now, I travel with the pedalboard version, which is in my little laptop bag right there. I can get on a plane with. It's important to be able to get on a plane with your gear because
It may not arrive.
it may not arrive, or may arrive later, much later. And so it allows me to have amp models and delays upon delays and reverbs and choruses and pitch effects, and then put them in orders to make even more bizarre effects. So I like doing things by the so-called rule book, and then I like every now and then moving things around and doing stuff you're not supposed to do to get interesting sounds. So that is a way that allows me to do that easily. I have the rack mount unit at home, and next time I do a big tour where there's a road crew in a van or a bus or whatever, a truck, I'll take out the rack unit. It's not that big either, but it requires a separate pedal board.
It's a damn sight smaller than the stuff you used to carry.
I can lift it myself. That's it's great. And I also I have a backup rig that I take with me that includes an Eventide H9, which is a little box that does a lot of similar stuff that the fractal unit does, but it does it more one thing at a time, but really high quality. And I use that as a backup, but since I was carrying as a backup, I decided to include it into the rig now. So I'm making even more crazy stuff that I can't do if I have to use a backup rig. But they travel separately most of the time.
But it's more about your fingers than the instrument anyway. It really is. I mean,
Okay.
there's no way that you can come across the way you come across unless your fingers can accommodate your thoughts.
Maybe. I do know that I think I had better actual technique when I was in my 20s, but the mind is better now.
Exactly.
Stuff like that. But I actually had the conversation with Steve Vai. It seems like we have the same conversation every year that we get together, of not having to warm up 20, 30 years ago, and now having to warm up.
Big difference.
Steve warms up a lot of times at concert volume. I just have to warm up.
Well, he does that because he can.
No one's going to tell him to turn it down. But I do it wherever I can, and I have to warm up.
Mm-hmm.
I have to really warm up. To be able to play, and there's a thing that happens when you feel warmed up, ready, and comfortable, is that I can play what I want.
It's confidence.
I can play from the feeling inside. Without that, I am playing to the ability, my technical ability, and my mind is on, I can't do this, or I can't do that, or I should do this, I should do that. When I'm in harmony with myself, and my hands are ready to play what I want without thinking about it, it's like having a conversation. You don't think about what words you have available to use. You just start doing it.
Exactly, and you also, as opposed to just playing something because you know that works,
Mm-hmm.
you're melodically composing.
Yeah.
In a free environment because you're confident you're confident in what you're going to play.
Yeah, I think the mind goes through most of the time. I know at my shows, once you step on stage, you're still an entertainer. So the mind goes through playing stuff for just to communicate and to play to. This is a show, so I got to do the thing where I tip the hat and use the whammy pedal. I do that every show. That's entertaining.
That's entertaining.
I don't want to be the guy that looks up and goes, a couple of guitar players just walked in. Let me turn up and let me play every, shred lick I know.
Of course.
I want to play just for, I want to play what's right for the song and a balance of what's right for me at the moment and where I'm coming from. And then also try not to get lost in that, and so that I do things like 25-minute versions of Political Rain. You remember those days,
I
right?
do.
When you play, you go, wow, that was really cool, and you look in the band, it's like, yeah, dude.
Although I must admit I never felt that way.
All right, well,
Yeah, I always felt good. It was always good.
you weren't playing drums.
This is true.
Yeah.
I did notice the sweat pouring off a couple of those guys.
Yeah.
They did.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm sure that the guitar that you're playing has a little bit of an effect on your musicality as well.
I have been lucky with guitars for a long time. I was with a company called Ibanez Guitars for 26 years. And they supported me at a time when I actually had no real great guitars. I had just won a couple of guitars for 2 years in a row in guitar solo contests. And I sold those both to go to the NAMM show at the time because I was promised an endorsement from another company, which I did not go with. And then I approached Ibanez, and they were very nice at the beginning and then super nice after the first year. But that relationship came to an end after 26 years. And I have some vintage guitars and some reissued vintage guitars. And I decided that I was just going to play those. And we spoke, Ibanez and I, the arch relations for Ibanez and I said I was going to play what I felt like playing at the time. And I still love my Ibanez custom shop guitars that they made for me. I still do. Still have those. Some are spread across the country a little bit. And then I'm a fan of guitar. I'm a fan of music too, but I'm a fan of guitar. And I've been to the Gibson Custom Shop. I've been to a couple of the guitar factories, especially small boutique makers. And I was in Maryland. I go to Maryland every year to work with Dawn Avery. She's a Native American artist that I've produced, 8 or so records with, various records.
Mm-hmm.
And so I usually go there, spend almost a month there in March, sometimes February, but March, a cold time. And we do a World Music Festival, a couple other Native American music festivals. I produce a record, and then I teach a master class in either guitar or recording and production at Montgomery College, sometimes both, and do a guitar clinic. And I had contacted a friend of mine who actually plays with Steve Vai, Dave Wiener, who switched from Ibanez to Paul Reed Smith and PRS guitars. And I said, Dave, I'm going to be in Maryland, and I know PRS is in Maryland. I'd like to go just to the factory to check out how they make guitars. They're an American guitar builder. They're building guitars in America. Most of their guitars, I guess. And he says, oh, they're great. They'll open the doors and stuff like that. And for whatever reason, it just didn't happen. We tried to contact them several times, and it probably was the wrong time of year for them. But I remembered that a friend of mine, Steve Stevens, who's from Far Rockaway, and where I grew up in my later, teen years and stuff, and he was now switched to a company called Knaggs, Knaggs, and he was really happy with guitars, and there was a model that they made for him, now several. And I remember that they were somehow connected to PRS guitars, but they were in Maryland also, and I didn't know the history. So I contacted Steve, and he wrote an absolutely amazing letter. I have some cool letters the last few years that at some point I'm going to print out and frame in my studio.
Sure.
And they were like, "Come on down, come check out the factory." It's a small factory there. At the time, I think there was only 5 people that worked there. I think there's 9 or 12.
So it's a real boutique shop.
And I went down there, had a great time with Joseph Knaggs, and found out the history. Joseph Knaggs used to be, he went to, I believe, high school with Paul Reed Smith, and I believe the second year in production of Paul Reed Smith guitars, Joe started working with Paul, and Joe created the private stock program, which made the high-end PRS guitars.
The Dragons.
The Dragons, yes, and quite a few others. And he also, throughout the years, he was with PRS for a long time. He designed the Starler, the Mira, the Vela, and I believe the Archtop series. And after a while, he decided he wanted to leave something for his kids in his name. And because it's all Paul's name,
sure,
obviously. So he left, and 10 years ago, started Knaggs Guitars. And another gentleman that worked at PRS for a long time, who's from Germany, Peter Wolf. left with him, and they actually, I believe, co-started Nags Guitars. And now that whole department, that whole private stock department, the original one, is the team that works at Nags. Yeah. And so Joe is very nice, and he's considered a master builder. And I had a great time. He let me play every guitar, and they're all real high-end guitars. I'm like, I put my necklace away, trying not to scratch anything. Every guitar that was built, I got to play, and that was there. And they were all spoken for. I believe they're caught up now, but they were, it was a waiting list before, a big waiting list. And so I played every guitar, and they were all great. I'm not sure I could say that I've ever been someplace where, especially one manufacturer, where I played that many guitars, and even guitars that I would not get for myself, they're just not my thing, felt and, just felt great. So, and none were set up the way I normally set up guitars too, but I enjoyed playing them. And I was happy, I was content that I got to go to this cool place and be in set that mind, and also have great conversation all day long with Joe. And at the end of it, he goes, he wanted to build me a guitar, and you can't say no to a master builder that offers to build you a guitar.
Exactly.
You just kind of go, thank you.
Exactly.
And then we talked, and now I have a model. And actually, I'm not sure when will this air. When will you air this?
2-3 weeks.
Okay. I think it'll be announced by then. But my current guitar that I'm playing, which has a maple fretboard, which I got because of the whole wood tariff, the wood.
Yes. The import duties on
import
rosewood.
Rosewood. They can take your guitar away.
Exactly.
So I got that to eliminate confusion going in and out of Europe and in and out of the U.S. But people really like that guitar. So I believe they're going to announce, probably by the time this is aired, that there'll be a limited edition of at least 20 of those guitars that they're going to make.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. Exact replicas of that guitar.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
That sounds really good.
Beautiful guitar, beautiful thing.
Are you currently working on a new collection of music?
I'm always working on music. When I sit down and play, a lot of times I take out my phone. When I'm in that space, I'll take out my phone and record some riffs. And then later on, when I'm ready to do a record, I pull that out and listen and go, I don't even remember doing that.
You always write on the guitar?
No, I don't. Sometimes I write when I play bass. I used to have a drum kit that would come up with grooves and stuff like that. Now I program some stuff. And I have a couple of unique guitars now. Like I have a little mandolin, and I'm horrible at mandolin, but it forces me.
I can't understand why.
Yeah, my hands up. But when I can actually make some sounds, I gotta go, oh, this is cool. Then I have to pick up the guitar and go, what was that I was doing and how I do it. And I have a bass. I write a lot of stuff from the bass perspective as well.
What would you like your audience to walk away with after they've seen a Larry Mitchell concert?
If people say that they saw me play, I was here, and I know that they left smiling, then they had a good time. They enjoyed themselves. So it's definitely a smile.
Thanks, Larry, for doing this interview with me. Whenever I see you perform, I always walk away with this vision of an evolving musician-composer that has come into his own over the years, getting more sophisticated while creating this very special music. Instrumental music that features the underpinnings of rock, funk, and R&B combined to create your musical vision. Thanks again for taking the time to sit down with me to talk about the evolution of Larry Mitchell, the musician. This is Tom for TuneProducer.com, bringing you the best of our local and touring musicians, or as I like to call them, the stars behind the stars.